This is Beat the Closing Line.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beat the Closing Line. I am your host, Nicole Russo, alongside just Mo Nuwwarah this week, resident analyst for TheLines.com. So today's show might be a little bit shorter because you just have two of us. Also, this is going to be our last show for the holiday season. So we just wanted to wish everyone, before we got started, happy holidays, and we will see you when we are in the new year. As always, we are taking a look at opening lines, discussing which bets we like, how we think those lines are going to move as we inch closer to game time, or how some of those lines have already moved off of the look-ahead lines. Before we dive into the discussion, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. And as always, if you are listening to us where you get your podcasts, make sure to subscribe to the Beat the Closing Line pod and leave a 5-star review. Mo, why don't you talk me through how last week's bets went for you?
Well, last week could have been a great week if yards per play and production from the line of scrimmage mattered in the Bucs-Bengals game. That one was tough for me. I had to watch a player I despise, Tom Brady, jab his thumb in my eye yet again. After taking a 17-0 lead, Bucs completely dominating the game. Not fluky whatsoever. They're moving the ball. The Bengals aren't moving the ball. They somehow managed to allow 34 points after that while still not letting the Bengals move the ball. That's how bad Brady was in terms of turnovers. Just single-handedly gave the game away. Fumbles, interceptions. I mean, he was just spreading the wealth to all of the Bengals defenders. So multiple, 30-yard scoring drives for the Bengals, and still the Bucs finished like plus 2 yards per play and just lost the game convincingly. So that one cost me quite a bit, but other than that, it was a pretty good week, slight winning week. Did sneak in a slight winner basically because I put in the Discord second half under in Lions-Jets. That came in really easily, so that was a nice hit.
Yeah, I think Tony Romo actually is to blame for that game because I don't know if you were watching the broadcast, but it all started after, I think it was Romo. He's like, for those of you that have said Father Time is catching up to Brady, absolutely not. He's looking like he was at 24. He's been perfect. They're dominating 7-0. And the second he said that, Brady throws his first interception of what I think was 4 turnovers in that game, like all within like the 20-yard line. So like you said, the Bengals didn't really have to move the ball at that point as far as yards per play because they were basically handed the ball in the red zone over and over and over again. I don't know if I've seen such a lopsided game in terms of what the team looked like in the first half versus what they looked like in the second half. Like I didn't know what I was watching.
Yeah, not a fun sweat for me. I don't think we had the sound on that one. So I think I did miss that, thankfully, or I would have been on even more tilt than
You would have been cursing. Yeah, it was like, and then he said it. He was like, oh, there we go. There's the jinx. I'm like, why'd you have to say it? But yeah, so I personally blame Romo on that one. But let's move on to our first of 2 games. We're only covering 2 games in today's show. And that is going to be the Eagles. Now, the big story of this week has been Jalen Hurts and the shoulder injury. This news came out yesterday afternoon. Fantasy players everywhere are starting to panic as they head into the playoffs, and they are rostering Hurts. He's been dealing with the sprained shoulder, leaving him questionable for this weekend's matchup against the Cowboys. If he doesn't start, it's going to be Gardner Minshew that is in. This line has moved pretty drastically since that news. The Eagles are now sitting at +6. But Mo, you're going to take them here at that number, even with the uncertainty.
Yeah, let me just start off with a real quick rant. We've got some time. People always say, there's 2 kind of like sides of NFL betting Twitter. Almost, I wouldn't say it's 2 sides, but a lot of people. There's always the people tinfoil hat. It's rigged. Everything's rigged. And then there's all the people who just come in. But of course, it's not rigged. You guys are all idiots. Never listen to somebody who tells you it's rigged. No, it is rigged. This is not the way they're talking about. And you can see it from this line. Just the information asymmetry between certain people. I don't think we can say for sure who. I have some ideas who some of them might be, but they get these injury news before the public. They get it before the reporters. And you saw that right here. You saw like 30 minutes before the rap sheets and Pelicieros were tweeting about Jalen Hurts injuring his shoulder and maybe missing this game. Just massive line steaming towards Dallas. I think it was -1, -2, something like that. Goes up to -5. This is before any ounce of news is out there. So clearly people knew. There's more tweets this morning about multiple 4-figure MVP bets on Patrick Mahomes. The line moves from, I think he was still plus to start the week, which is kind of insane after the weeks they both had. Like, Hurts didn't play well. Mahomes was basically flawless against Houston. I know it's Houston, but Hurts threw 2 really poor interceptions. It wasn't a good game for him, despite the fantasy production. So I'm really surprised. I thought Mahomes was going to be favored already, but, well, the people with some market influence who got the inside information hammered Mahomes, 24-figure bets, I think I saw this morning on Twitter. It's just stupid. Like, why are these people figuring this out before the public? The average bettor is just at a huge disadvantage here. I mean, somebody is leaking this stuff to people who can place these wagers, and it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to comment on, but like you said, we definitely saw that the line started to move before Schefter, before Pelissero put this tweet out. Like, the line was already on the move. So you're right. Somebody probably somewhere has someone in that camp that sent a text message that said Hurts is injured. But either way, you like Minshew or not, you're taking Eagles +6 here.
I do. We've talked a lot about how the market tends to overreact to some of these quarterback injuries. I think this is a prime example, to be honest. We have a 5-point move off Cowboys -1 here. I don't think the drop-off from Hurts to Minshew is worth 5 points. I don't think, first of all, I want to say, like, even though I admire what Hurts is doing, I don't think he's the driving force behind the Eagles' success this year. They have an awesome roster, a sharp coach, amazing receivers, best offensive line in the league, really strong defense. Like, I don't think he's the one driving the bus here. He's doing good work, and he seems like an awesome guy, so I'm happy for him. I just think, like, this drop-off isn't as big as people think. And not only is Hurts probably not as impactful of a player as people think, but Minshew is probably a lot better than people think. Just looking back at his numbers when he's played in the NFL, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 63.2 completions, 7 yards per attempt. I mean, these are all very solid numbers. And, yeah, I mean, you want to say, oh, well, maybe some of these are garbage yards. Not really. I mean, 4 game-winning drives in 30 NFL appearances. I know he was on the Jags, but he definitely wasn't piling up empty numbers. He was playing pretty decent football. And he, like I said, he's going to be in a great situation here. Facing a really tough pass rush, that's kind of the bugaboo here. Is his weakness has always kind of been taking too many sacks, just kind of lingering in the pocket too long, trying to make big plays when there's maybe nothing out there. But I think, with the Eagles, it should mitigate some of that. This is the number 1 offensive line by PFF's pass blocking grades. ESPN's pass block win rate has them 7th. So this is a very strong pass protection unit. Obviously, the receiving weapons are very good. Dallas Goedert should be back this week. Might be on a snap count, but yeah, I just have a lot of confidence in the Eagles roster. And when I'm looking at this matchup between Eagles and Cowboys, I think it's going to be basically decided in the trenches. Both teams have been a little bit vulnerable to the run at times. Both teams very strong in the pass rush. I just have more confidence basically in the Eagles offensive line than the Cowboys, especially after they lost Terrence Steele. I think we talked about that last week when Eli was all about the Jags. That came home for him. And yeah, Terrence Steele going to be out. They put a rookie that some people thought was a guard, I think. So we'll see how his career progresses. But yeah, a rookie playing left tackle right now. Tyron Smith is back, but I think he was on a snap count last week. Had him working at right tackle. So a little bit of a potential weakness there on the Cowboys offensive line. And we've seen how Dak's play can fall off at times like that. I'm happy to get the +6 here. This is a weird one, though, because like you might even be able to get +7 if you kind of wait and see when Minshew is like confirmed to be the starter.
Yeah.
Could see this going to 7, but I'm just going to take the 6 and probably add more at 7 if that happens. It is kind of a weird one also because both teams kind of have nothing to play for, to be honest. Like they're almost locked into their seeds basically. So we could see like a kind of a no-show on either side, and it wouldn't really surprise me, but I just have to go off what I think these rosters can do. And I think +6 is too many here.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the no-show side of things, but I also kind of think that if you're the Eagles and you can clinch the number 1 seed here, then you don't rest on your laurels and take your foot off the gas, even if Hurts is out. Because if you can push here and you can clinch with Minshew in, then that takes all the pressure off of Hurts over the next 2 weeks if he still needs that time to recover. So I actually think if you're the Eagles, you just like look to push to get it done here. So I'm going to agree with you that at +6, if it potentially goes to +7, I think that the Eagles don't rest their starters, like don't just chalk this one up to a loss. Like I think they actually push in this position. We'll see, but I like +6 here as well. Any final thoughts before we move on to game 2, final game?
Not really. I would just say like what you're saying makes some sense. I mean, in some ways you would almost say the Eagles have more of a reason to show up than the Cowboys, just because they almost have something to prove that Jalen Hurts, they can succeed without him, and I mean, the Cowboys are like so locked into their seed. I just can't see a way they're not going to finish number 5 basically in the NFC. So could see both teams kind of a little bit sleepy here, but Eagles, I don't know. I don't see them really laying down for a division rival, so hopefully a good effort from them.
All right, next game, final game. We have the Titans who are facing off against the Houston Texans this week. The Titans have struggled in their last 3 games, being outscored 91-48 in losses against the Bengals, Eagles, and the Jags. They are going to be taking on the Texans in Tennessee. Now, the Texans have been playing pretty good football in the last few weeks, despite their 1-11 record. Mo, even with everything that's going on with the Titans, Tannehill, which we'll get into that in a little bit, you like them at -5 here.
Yeah, I've been cashing on the Texans last couple weeks. +1 million against Dallas, +1 million against the Chiefs. But that being said, I do think this is a good buy low on the Titans, sell high on the Texans. And honestly, like, I'm not sure I deserve that last one against the Chiefs. That game, I mean, the Chiefs were so dominant in that game. There's no way that game should not have been a double-digit win. The market said Chiefs was the side. It closed 14.5, and you can see why in the box score. Outgained them by 300 yards, almost 3 yards per play. It was basically just kicking miscues and fumbles that kept the Texans in the game, which are pretty random. I was excited to bet the Texans with Davis Mills, and market opinion was incredibly low at that point on them. But now I'm going to try to sell here and take the Titans when the look-ahead line was 8.5, which I thought was fair. I was only a little bit below that. I thought 7.5 was fair, even if I downgrade them a little bit based on, last week, which it wasn't really a bad game by them against the Chargers. I mean, they're still struggling as far as like having any weapons, and hopefully Treylon Burks is back in the fold this week. Look at the teams that the Titans have been struggling against, man. I mean, Eagles, Bengals, Chargers, these are very tough opposition. And the Texans basically had 2 games where, yes, they covered and are playing better. And hey, I moved them out of 32 on my power rankings this week because, quarterback injuries elsewhere, and they're playing reasonable football now. But that Dallas game was also just basically a turnover game. Dallas muffed punt, gave them the ball with some horrible interceptions. I don't think that's going to happen here. Basically, the Titans took care of the ball pretty good this year, and Ryan Tannehill in general is usually pretty good about taking care of the ball. Under a 2% interception rate this year, which is pretty solid. And he's only had one season since he came to Tennessee where he's been below average in terms of interception rate. So I think as long as they take care of the ball, this is a good spot for them. I mean, we've seen them destroy Houston before. They already did it earlier this year. Houston doesn't have a good run defense. 23rd in rush defense EPA, 27th in adjusted line yards. I mean, the Titans dominated them on the road, basically. I mean, they only won by 7, but almost plus 3 yards per play in that game, plus 190 total yards. And they had Malik Willis at quarterback in that game, so absolutely zero threat of anything through the air. And they were still able to move the ball on the Texans. So I think it's a good buy low spot below 7 on the Titans.
I'm only staying off of this one because of what we saw with Tannehill last week. We saw him aggravate that ankle. He had to go into the tent. Then he was eventually carted off of the field. I thought he was going to be done for the game. They used their magic. Whatever shots, whatever pills, whatever they had in that locker room. And then he came back out and played for the rest of the game. I think the key is going to be Derrick Henry, with Tannehill potentially being questionable. And the Texans do have the worst run defense in the NFL. So if Henry does get going, it's going to be hard to play catch up for the Texans. So if I were to take a side, I'd probably lean your way. But because of the Tannehill injury and Derrick Henry being over the last 4 weeks underproducing, I'm going to stay off of this one, but I do see where you're coming from here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they call it gambling, right? I could definitely see a situation where you're definitely banking on Ryan Tannehill being somewhat healthy. It's going to be hard to cover 5 just plunging into the line, even though they did it last time, but it's definitely not going to be easy. And it's definitely possible that he's still banged up and won't be close to 100%. So hoping that that's not the case here, but we'll see how things go. I definitely would not want to bet this if it was Malik Willis. I mean, I almost bet him last time -2.5. I missed the boat, ended up closing 3.5 or 3. So I think that was right on the road. But now the Titans are not quite as healthy on defense and not playing quite as well as they were before early in the season. So I'd be careful if I knew Malik had a chance. I'm just assuming Tannehill's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think since he played last week, I'm assuming he'll play this week as well. But, whatever magical potions they have back there seem to do the trick. But if you are betting this weekend, good luck with all of your bets. And from us over here at The Lines, happy holidays. Again, we will be taking off to enjoy time with our family and friends for the holidays. So we will see you in the new year.